welcome to the CPR YouTube channel. Today we're discussing the global and regional impacts of Donald Trump's presidency with CPR expert Otabek Akramov, a political scientist who's currently pursuing a PhD at the University of Minnesota. We'll have a brief discussion of how Trump's policies influence U.S. Central Asia relations, including Uzbekistan, and their lasting implications. How would you evaluate Donald Trump's presidency in terms of its impact on global politics and U.S. foreign policy priorities?
So recently, Donald Trump made his second inauguration speech, and we can have several takeaways out of his speech. So first thing, let's channelize them as populist statements. First, he said that he's gonna, let's say, invade or unite the territory of Greenland, where it's an autonomous part of Denmark, to the United States. It's one thing. Another point is that he is planning to rename the Gulf of Mexico to Gulf of America. Another huge geopolitical shift. Also, and one of the widely promoted policy of Trump is that fortification of the wall in Mexico, sending soldiers, troops in order to protect the territory. Also, we should mention one of the key priorities of Trump would be in this new term is that to amend the Constitution, Decree 14, that those who were born in the United States shouldn't be deemed as citizens. So it means that your parents should be, or either one mother or father should be a citizen of the United States. When it comes to other foreign policy priorities, for Trump, one of the main competitors remains China. So the policy would be tackling China. We're trying to, checking Chinese rise in the world. In addition to that, the policy of the United States towards Russia could be different from that of today. It means that Trump has a specific opinion on Russian invasion or war in Ukraine. He says that, in order to prevent the emergence of Third World War, we should sit around the table and start negotiations with Russia. Positive thing about this fact is that it's a good sign for the overall order, that at least will prevent a huge war and sides start negotiating. I understand, we all understand that it might take long, but in any case, it's a sign that the negotiations will start with Trump and Putin. But a bad sign of this movement could be that it might set a precedent for great powers to breaking international norms. By that I mean that, Russia invaded a sovereign country. So it holds certain territories that belonged to Ukraine previously. With that being said, when Trump and Russia sit to negotiate the issue, negotiate the terms of this peace, one of the main issues by Russia will be promoted that, these territories should be a part of Russia. It means that for smaller states such as, it will be detrimental that let's imagine if great powers do whatever they want by invading like sovereign countries, what kind of policies should we hold in that kind of scenario? It's a bad sign towards the smaller countries.
Thank you for your response. How did Trump's policies influence U.S. engagement with Central Asian countries, particularly through initiatives like C+1?
Okay, C+1 became a sort of tradition in terms of having relations with greater powers in international system. Initially, it was like Europe, the United States, Korea, Japan. So we have this kind of platforms with all of them. Initially, it was the interest of those powers to unite Central Asia because it was not united. But these days, the paradigm has changed because we are now like positioning those platforms as if, we are now united, or at least we desire to be united and have common position towards great powers, and we will be negotiating on our terms. So good thing is that recently B5+1 type of platform was initiated by like all the sites. B5+1 is a sister, let's say sister platform of C5+1, and it is mostly about economic relations between Central Asian states and the US on the other hand. So, but with that being said, Central Asia has never been let's say, a priority for the US interest, but it doesn't mean that it's out of its agenda. So we know that Trump prioritized economic relations in lieu of political and security, and it's for our benefit that the US would have this kind of relations. It means that whenever the US like talks with Central Asian peers, so the liberal issues such as promotion of LGBTQ type of questions will be out of topic. Additional point to that, we know that in inauguration speech, Trump announced that there are only two types of genders, men and women. Good for us somehow. Why? Because the US would stop promoting the rights of LGBTQ in Central Asia. It's good. Why? Because we know that LGBTQ is incompatible with local culture, religion, and it's a good sign.
That's an interesting point you made right there. Thank you.
Thank you.
What were the main milestones in Uzbekistan relations during the first Trump's administration, and what could it be next?
Okay, so main milestones in that period was the signing of the overall strategy of the United States towards the region, which is 2019-2025, and it laid a groundwork for closer cooperation, protecting sovereignty of smaller states in Central Asia amid Russian aggressive actions in the world. And on the other hand, and the most important part is that Shavkat Mirziyoyev, the president of Uzbekistan, visited Washington, D.C., and they had a good talk about mutual relations. So these are, I think, the main milestones. And when it comes to the further relations during the second term, so a good opportunity for the U.S. to invest in major projects such as energy and transportation. Let me elaborate on that a bit. So we know that Europe depended on Russian energy resources for a long period of time, but amid this crisis that happened in Ukraine, these days the dependence decreased by 75%. It means that they need alternative energy sources. And Central Asia is a good, let's say, a market for Europe, and the US should be interested in having independent Europe in terms of energy from Russia. So recently, Kazakhstan, Azerbaijan, and Uzbekistan signed a memorandum on developing green energy in this region, and it could be a good source for exporting energy and electricity to Europe. On the other hand, the region is really rich with mineral resources, and the US could encourage its business community to invest in those areas and establish closer ties in terms of importing energy resources and other mineral resources. And the third part is the transportation. We know that the middle corridor is widely discussed topic these days, but it turns out to be more as a PR project rather than real transportation road. But it doesn't mean that it doesn't have potential. So by Europe, this project is designated as alternative to the Northern Corridor, which is not the case. Of course, it has potential, but it's not going to substitute the Northern Corridor. But it can be additional corridor in order to avoid the monopoly or one-sidedness of the old corridors in Central Asia. It's a good sign, and the U.S. could invest more in developing infrastructure there because it's a multimodal, meaning it has different elements, including like transportation through trails, railways, through sea, through trucks, etc. So the U.S. could help develop this infrastructure in the region.
Thank you. How did Trump's administration support Uzbekistan reform agenda and its economic transformation?
As I mentioned above, Uzbekistan is not a priority country for the U.S., but it doesn't mean that it ignores the Uzbekistan. We remember that in 2021, Uzbekistan even became, the country of the year by The Economist. So it's a great acknowledgement. So it means that this kind of great journals, on the other hand, the United States itself as well acknowledges the ongoing liberal reforms, both in economic and political sectors. And so, so acknowledgement by such a great power and one of the biggest democracies in the world, it's a good sign for Uzbekistan's reputation.
Do you see any lasting effects of Trump's presidency on the U.S. Central Asia relations?
So the coming of Trump to the power could be a good sign because if Trump's administration would be interested in developing relations with Central Asia, it's a good sign for the political development in the country. So, we know that whether it's good or bad, the United States always have a democratic agenda. So, and the U.S., maybe the scale of it will be much lower than it was in Biden's administration, but the U.S. would still be interested in promoting democracy in the world. It's good to have the United States in Central Asia, as it will have a positive effect on, or it will encourage Central Asian states to further its liberalization policies. On the other hand, Central Asian states are interested to have more options in terms of great powers. Small states do not like to be dependent on certain powers, and this is a great opportunity for Central Asia to have the United States in the region to, diversify its relations with greater powers and avoid further dependence on Russia. Yeah.
Thank you so much for your responses. It was really great having you here.
Thanks for having me. Thank you.